cold, oppressive silence was the first thing that hit me when I woke up. The faint sound of a beeping machine echoed in the distance, but it didn't feel right. It wasn't the hum of a busy hospital, it was the eerie stillness of an abandoned place. I tried to move, but my body ached as though I had been lying here for days, weeks, maybe even longer. I looked around, but there was no one in sight. Just the faint glow of flickering lights in a dark, empty hallway. My heart raced as I stumbled out of the room. The walls seemed to close in around me, and I realized I wasn't alone. I heard footsteps behind me, slow, deliberate, but when I turned, no one was there, and yet I could feel a presence, something hunting me. Where was everyone? What happened to this place? Why did it feel like I was walking through the aftermath of something terrible? A forgotten town, a deserted world, and I wasn't just a bystander. I was being hunted by something that knew my every move. I ran, but no matter where I went, it followed. Every corner I turned, every street I crossed, I could feel it getting closer. My breath quickened, panic setting in. I needed answers, I needed to escape, but nothing about this town made sense. It was a never-ending nightmare, and I was its prey. And then I saw it, a figure, standing in the distance, watching me. It was me, but it wasn't. If you're hooked by the mystery, the terror, and the secrets buried in this abandoned town, then hit that subscribe button and join the Whispers in the Dark family. Your support helps us keep uncovering the most chilling stories and delivering them right to your screen. Stay tuned, because the nightmare is far from over. I woke up in a cold sweat. The first thing I noticed was the silence. It was so overwhelming I almost couldn't breathe. There were no sounds of footsteps, no chatter, not even the usual hum of hospital machinery. Just the soft, rhythmic beeping from somewhere in the distance. But as I blinked into the darkness, I realized it wasn't right. It wasn't the beeping of a regular medical machine. It was mechanical, disjointed, almost offbeat. I rubbed my eyes, trying to clear the fog in my head. What happened? My name is Alex Moore, I knew that much. I tried to remember the last thing I was doing, but there was nothing. No images, just blank, empty space in my memory. I had no idea how I got here or why everything felt so wrong. Was I in an accident? The dull ache in my body suggested that maybe I had been. My head throbbed as I sat up, trying to make sense of my surroundings. I was in a hospital room, but it didn't look like any hospital I had ever seen. The walls were cracked, peeling, and the light above flickered incessantly. The window was covered with dirty curtains, letting in just enough light from the street lamps outside to cast long, ominous shadows. I looked around, hoping for some sign of life, but the room was empty. The bed next to mine was abandoned, the sheets twisted and stained. My reflection in the window caught my eye. I looked. Different. My face was gaunt, pale, and the stubble on my chin was uneven. Had I been here for days, weeks? I didn't remember. "Hello," I called out weakly, pressing the call button on the side of the bed, but the only response was the quiet echo of my own voice. No nurses, no doctors. I waited, but after several minutes, the silence only deepened. Something was wrong, I could feel it in my bones. I stood up, the floor creaking beneath me, my legs were stiff. As I stepped out into the hallway, I froze. The hallway stretched on, deserted and dark. There were no signs of life, no movement, just the dim flicker of overhead lights, like they too were trying to escape the darkness that filled the place. I called out again. "Is anyone here?" My voice bounced off the walls, hollow and useless. It was like the world had gone quiet, like I was the only person left. I began walking, my footsteps echoing as I passed by empty rooms. Papers were scattered across the floor, dust covered everything. The once pristine white walls were now yellowed and peeling. The air smelled stale, as though it had been trapped for years. And yet the lights were still on. The power hadn't been cut. It was like the hospital had been abandoned overnight. I reached the end of the hallway. The elevator doors were slightly ajar, and there was a faint light flickering inside. My gut twisted, but I felt a strange pull toward it. I stepped inside, hesitating for a moment before pressing the button for the ground floor. The doors slammed shut behind me, the sound of the elevator's grinding gears sending a shiver down my spine. The elevator jerked to life, moving slowly as if it were unsure of its purpose. As it descended, the tension in my chest grew. The low hum of the machine was the only sound, a sound that seemed to get louder the further I went. The doors creaked open with a loud screech, revealing a lobby that looked as though time had forgotten it. The floor was dusty, and old magazines were scattered across the receptionist's desk, untouched by human hands for what seemed like years. I stepped out into the lobby, my heart pounding in my chest. "Hello," I called again, but my voice didn't even sound like my own. It echoed unnaturally, too loud in the stillness. That's when I noticed something. The door to the outside was wide open. The cold night air rushed in, carrying with it an eerie stillness. I walked toward it, hoping to find some answers. But when I stepped outside, the world that greeted me was not the one I remembered. It was a ghost town. The streets were empty. Abandoned cars lined the curb, their doors open, as if their owners had just stepped out and never returned. Buildings stood in varying degrees of decay. Some were half collapsed, others were covered in grime, and all of them had that same sense of abandonment that made my skin crawl. I could see the faint glow of streetlights, but there was no sound. No animals, no people. The town was completely still, as though it had been frozen in time. I tried to make sense of it, but nothing made sense. I felt out of place, like I didn't belong here. The silence was oppressive, like the town itself was holding its breath, waiting for something or someone. I began walking down the street, my steps quickening as the fear began to settle in. I couldn't remember how I had gotten here or why, but the longer I walked, the more I felt the weight of something watching me. It was like the town itself was alive, and it knew I didn't belong. I came to a stop in front of a store. The windows were dark, but I saw something in the reflection, a figure standing just out of sight. I turned quickly, but no one was there. My heart pounded as I looked around. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I felt the unmistakable sensation of eyes on me. "Hello," I whispered, my voice barely audible, but the words seemed to echo endlessly into the empty street. No response. I walked faster now, my breath shallow, panic creeping in. As I turned the corner, I saw a figure in the distance, standing under the light of a street lamp. My heart skipped a beat. A person. Finally. I rushed toward them, calling out, "Hey, hey, do you know what's going on here? What's happening?" But as I got closer, I froze. It was me. Or rather, it looked like me. The same hair, the same stubble, the same tired eyes. But there was something wrong. The person's eyes were hollow black voids, sucking in the light around them. A twisted, eerie grin stretched across their face. I stopped in my tracks, my breath catching in my throat. I backed away slowly, but the figure didn't move. It just stood there, smiling at me, its eyes empty and soulless. I turned to run, my legs carrying me as fast as they could, but the figure followed, not physically. But I could feel it, like it was always there, just behind me. I stumbled, tripping over a cracked sidewalk, and when I looked up, it was there, standing in front of me, its face inches from mine, the grin still wide, still empty. Before I could react, it reached into its pocket. I felt a cold steel press against my stomach. The last thing I heard before everything went dark was its voice. A whisper, a mockery of my own. "It's you, isn't it?" If this story intrigued you and made your heart race, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Join the Whispers in the Dark family and keep supporting us as we continue to bring you the most chilling, spine-tingling tales. Stay tuned for more, because the nightmare is only just beginning. I awoke again in the same sterile hospital room, my body aching as though I had just been pulled from the deepest of nightmares. The same beeping machine that haunted my senses, the same peeling walls, the same suffocating silence. Was it real, or had I been trapped in this place forever? My breath hitched as the memory of what happened before began to fade. The doppelganger, its eyes hollow, its grin twisted, the cold metal pressing into my stomach, it all felt like a fading dream. But it wasn't. It couldn't be. I had woken up in this room again, and the fear of it all gnawed at me, deeper than any pain. I glanced at the clock on the wall, 3:22 a.m., same time, same haunting silence. My heart raced with the sickening realization that I was caught in a cycle, a never-ending loop, Was I dead? Was I living a nightmare? No matter how many times I woke up, it always felt like the same thing over and over. I tried to get up, my legs wobbly as though the world around me was shifting. My mind screamed for clarity, but my body could hardly respond. I stumbled to the door, gripping the handle and pushing it open. The hallway stretched out before me, dimly lit and deserted. I expected the buzzing of fluorescent lights, the soft murmur of hospital staff, but there was nothing, not a single sound, just the hollow echo of my own footsteps. I walked, unsure of where I was going, only knowing that I had to get out. The hallways twisted and turned, each corner feeling more suffocating than the last. The rooms I passed were dark and abandoned, some with their doors ajar, others completely sealed. I couldn't help but feel like I was being watched. And then I saw it again. A reflection in a window, me but not me. It was like the room warped around me, and there it was, staring back with its empty eyes, that familiar grin spreading across its face. I gasped, stumbling backward. My reflection was no longer my own. It was it. The thing that had hunted me down before. I could feel its presence looming behind me, its hollow eyes burning into my back. I turned, but once again, there was no one there. Just the silence. Just the cold, empty hall. But the feeling of being hunted never left. I wasn't alone here, and I had no idea how to escape. I ran. My feet pounded against the floor, but every turn I took seemed to lead me back to the same place. The same hallway. The same dark, empty rooms. It felt like I was trapped in a maze, each corner a dead end, each door a doorway to nowhere. I stumbled into a room, my heart racing, gasping for air. The door slammed shut behind me and I locked it. The room was small, with a single window, its blinds drawn shut. I tried to calm myself, pressing my hand against the cool window, trying to steady my breathing. But that's when I saw it, a flicker in the darkness outside. A figure. I froze. It was there, standing still in the distance, just outside the window, watching me. I could feel my breath catch in my throat. The figure didn't move. It just stood there, staring, but I could tell deep down that it wasn't like the others. It wasn't just a shadow, it was real, it was waiting. I stumbled backward, my pulse thundering in my ears. I turned to the door, but the knob wouldn't budge. Panic surged through me as I pulled harder, but the door was locked. I was trapped. I stepped back, my body shaking, my mind racing. I could hear someone breathing in the room with me. I spun around, but there was nothing. Only the deep, unsettling silence. That's when I heard it, a voice, low, distorted, and familiar. "You can't escape, not anymore." My blood ran cold. I didn't need to look around to know who it was. The voice was mine, but it wasn't. It was the thing that had been chasing me, the thing that wanted to destroy me. I bolted for the window, but the blinds wouldn't open. Panic surged through me as I clawed at the fabric, desperate to see something, anything that could help me escape this hell. But the window was locked tight. I could hear the thing coming closer, its presence filling the room, suffocating me. I turned to face the door. The sound of footsteps echoed outside, but when I turned the handle, it wouldn't open. I was trapped, a prisoner in my own mind, haunted by the thing that knew me better than I knew myself. The world around me began to blur and my vision flickered. My hands went cold and I felt myself slipping. My body screamed for freedom, but it was no use. Before I could even think of a way out, I woke up again. Back in the hospital room, the beeping machine, the silence. I slammed my fist against the bed in frustration, but the reality of the situation hit me. I wasn't getting out. I wasn't waking up. I was stuck. I awoke in a place that wasn't the hospital room, but it wasn't the outside world either. The air was thick with the scent of mildew, and the walls seemed to close in, as if the building was trying to swallow me whole. For a brief moment, I thought it might have been another nightmare. Maybe this was just the aftershock of my latest encounter with it. But the ache in my bones, the burn in my muscles, and the familiar sting of fear told me it wasn't. I was somewhere new, yet somehow it felt familiar. The faint hum of air conditioning, the steady flicker of fluorescent lights, the drab beige walls that reminded me of the hospital. But this time I wasn't alone. There was a woman. She was sitting on the floor, her back against the wall, her knees pulled up to her chest. Her face was hidden, but her breathing was shallow, labored. She didn't look up when I approached, but there was something in the air that told me she knew I was there. I knelt down beside her, my heart pounding in my chest. "Are you okay?" My voice came out shakier than I'd intended. She slowly raised her head, revealing hollow eyes that looked too far away, too empty. Her lips parted in a faint, sad smile. "You're still here too?" "Still here," I repeated, trying to understand. "What do you mean? What is this place?" Her gaze shifted to the darkness around us. "You're stuck," she whispered, "just like me." I glanced around. The room felt like a holding cell, dark, claustrophobic, and oppressive. It was then that I realized we weren't the only ones in this room. Other figures, slumped and broken, were scattered around the space, their bodies unmoving, their eyes wide open but blank, staring at nothing. "How long?" I asked, my throat tight with anxiety. "Long enough." Her voice was soft, barely audible. "Long enough to see the rules." I didn't understand. Rules? What rules? Was this some kind of twisted game? But before I could ask more, I heard a sound, faint at first but growing louder. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate steps, like someone was walking towards us. My heart skipped a beat as I turned to look at the door. The woman stiffened, her expression changing from resigned calm to something darker. Fear. "You don't want to meet him," she whispered. "He's coming. And when he comes, there are no second chances." The door creaked open and I felt the temperature drop in the room. It was him, the thing that had been hunting me. I knew it before I even saw him. The dark energy that filled the room, the pressure on my chest, the feeling of being watched from every corner. I turned my head slowly. The figure was there. At first, it was just a silhouette standing in the doorway, but as the light flickered, I saw it more clearly. It was me. Or at least, it looked like me, but it wasn't. The skin was wrong, the eyes too dark, the smile too wide, too predatory, and its presence, it was suffocating. I took a step back, my breath shallow, panic clawing at my chest. "You're still here," it said in my voice, but it wasn't my voice. It was twisted, distorted, like the words were being dragged through something unholy. "You'll never leave, not until I say so." The woman beside me shuddered, her hands trembling. "Run," she hissed, grabbing my arm with a frantic grip. "You can't stay here. You can't let it take you." I didn't need another warning. Without thinking, I turned and bolted. My feet slammed against the cold concrete floor, my body moving faster than it ever had before. The thing behind me, my doppelganger, let out a low, mocking chuckle, but I didn't dare look back. The woman's warning echoed in my ears. "Run." I found a narrow hallway at the back of the room and dove into it. But as I ran, the walls around me began to shift, as if the entire building were alive. The hallway seemed to stretch, bending in impossible directions. I couldn't keep my bearings. I couldn't tell which way was up or down. The walls were closing in. The ceilings felt lower, and the air was thick with something foul, a smell of decay, of rot. I felt it, the presence. It was right behind me. I turned a corner, desperate to find a way out, but my foot caught on something. I stumbled and fell to the ground, the cold concrete scraping my skin. I tried to push myself up, but the air seemed to be pushing back, pressing me down. My hands were trembling, my chest tight with fear. And then it was there. It appeared out of nowhere, a shadowy form, its eyes glimmering with that same abyssal emptiness. It was too fast, too strong. Before I could scream, it was on top of me, pinning me to the ground. I could feel its breath on my face, the grin, the emptiness in its eyes. And then I realized something. This wasn't just a game, it was a hunt, and I was the prey. "You'll never escape," it whispered, its voice growing more distorted with each word. "You're mine now, forever." My world tilted. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't escape. And just as I thought it would end, just as I thought it was all over, it stopped. I lay there, my chest heaving with exhaustion, my limbs numb. And then the creature, it backed off. But I knew something deeper in that moment. The game wasn't over. It wasn't done with me. It would never be. I don't know how long I've been running. Hours, days. Time felt like it had become irrelevant. The town twisted around me like a living nightmare, the streets constantly changing and the buildings distorting into new, horrifying shapes. It felt like I was on some kind of endless treadmill, my legs moving, my heart racing, but getting nowhere. The streets were empty, but the silence was deafening, except for the footsteps I could hear behind me. I turned a corner, my lungs burning, only to be met by more of those twisted reflections of myself. But this time they weren't just standing in the shadows, they were watching. I froze, every nerve screaming at me to run, but my body was paralyzed. The figures, my doppelgangers, but hollow, their eyes deep, endless voids, stood motionless, watching me with an eerie stillness that sent a cold shiver down my spine. They didn't move, didn't make a sound. They were like statues, mere figments of a nightmare, but they were alive. And they were watching me, waiting for something. The one closest to me smiled, a wide, jagged grin that stretched unnaturally across its face. The smile, so wide it seemed impossible for any human mouth to form, grew as it tilted its head. It didn't speak, but I could hear its voice in my mind, a low, malevolent whisper that rattled my bones. "You can't escape. We are always here, watching." The words rang through my skull, amplifying my fear to a level I didn't think was possible. I stumbled back, my foot slipping on the wet pavement, but I didn't care. I had to get away. I had to keep moving. I turned to run, but as I did, another figure appeared in front of me. It wasn't just one this time. There were more, too many to count. They were emerging from the dark corners of the street, their hollow eyes gleaming in the dim light. They moved with an unnatural fluidity, their bodies jerking in ways that didn't make sense, like marionettes on strings. And then I realized what they were doing. They were surrounding me. My breath caught in my throat as the figures closed in, their eyes never leaving mine. The air around me felt thick, oppressive. It was suffocating. I turned to run again, but no matter which way I went, the figures kept coming, blocking every path, every escape route. They weren't just standing in my way, they were hurting me, pushing me towards something I couldn't see but could feel. A deep, primal fear clawed at my chest as the sense of being trapped became overwhelming. And then it happened. The figures stopped. They all stopped at once. The air became still and the silence grew louder. I could feel it. The weight of their gaze upon me, all of them staring with those empty eyes, watching as though they were waiting for something to happen. A figure stepped forward, the one that had smiled at me earlier. It reached out, its hand extending in slow motion, almost in a mockery of my own movements. My body tensed as I watched it get closer, its fingers cold and skeletal like it had been long dead. I felt my skin prickle with the cold touch of fear. The hand hovered just in front of my face, and for a moment it felt as though everything had frozen in time. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. Then, with a sudden, sharp motion, the figure's hand shot forward and pressed against my chest. Everything snapped. Pain exploded in my chest, searing through me like 1,000 knives. I gasped for air, but there was none. The world around me blurred, my vision darkening at the edges. The figures moved closer, their silent, watching eyes piercing into me as the pain grew unbearable. I felt as though my body was being torn apart, my mind unraveling at the edges. But just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, the pain stopped. The world returned to its muted, suffocating silence, and I collapsed to my knees, gasping for breath. My hands trembled as I pressed them against my chest, expecting to find blood or wounds, but there was nothing. No blood, no sign of injury. I looked up and the figures were gone, just like that. They had vanished as though they had never been there at all. I was left in the empty street, the silence almost deafening now. I tried to stand, but my legs felt like jelly. I didn't know where to go or if I could even move. The weight of everything pressing down on me was too much. The endless loop, the creatures, the fear. And then, I heard it, a distant sound, the faintest of footsteps. I looked up, my heart sinking. It was him, the one who had been hunting me, the figure that had mirrored my every move, twisted into something dark, something wrong. He was coming. The footsteps grew louder, closer, faster. I knew I couldn't outrun it, but I had no choice. I turned and ran, pushing my legs as fast as they could go, the darkness swallowing me whole. But as I looked back, I saw it, his figure emerging from the shadows, moving toward me with a terrifying speed. The grin on his face stretched wider, as though he was savoring every second of this chase. And just before everything went black again, I realized something. This wasn't just a nightmare. This was the beginning of the end. The air was thick, like the town itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. I couldn't tell how long I had been running. My legs were on fire. My body was shaking from exhaustion, but I didn't dare stop. The figure, the one that mirrored me, the one that had hunted me for what felt like an eternity, was still behind me, closer than ever. Every step I took felt like it was bringing me closer to the inevitable. I rounded another corner, gasping for air, my heart pounding in my chest. The town had changed again. The buildings were taller now, looming above me, casting long shadows across the street. The fog had returned, thicker than before, swirling around my ankles, making it harder to see. And then I heard it, a low, almost imperceptible hum. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, the panic tricking me into hearing things, but no, it was real, it was getting louder. The ground beneath me seemed to pulse with it, as though the very earth was alive. I stopped, my breath coming in ragged gasps, and looked around. The air was still, but there was something wrong. It felt like the town was breathing. And in that moment, I realized it. I wasn't just running from him. I wasn't just running from my own doppelganger. I was running from the town itself. A loud crack echoed through the air like thunder, but there were no clouds, no storm. The buildings around me shifted again, twisting and warping in ways that shouldn't have been possible. One of them seemed to lean toward me, its windows bulging as though it were reaching out, trying to grab me. I took a step back, but my foot slipped in the dampness of the street and I fell. The ground rumbled beneath me, the hum of the town growing louder, more intense. My head swam as I scrambled to get up, but the streets beneath me had turned into a thick, viscous sludge, sticky and impossible to move through. I was stuck. And that's when I saw it. From the shadows, from the fog, a figure emerged. But this time it wasn't my doppelganger. This one was different, taller, more distorted. Its body flickered in and out of focus like a bad TV signal. I could see it clearly, but I couldn't focus on it. The thing's face was a blur, an impression of something that resembled a face, but it wasn't quite there. Its eyes were black holes, sucking in all the light around them, and its mouth was a jagged, open wound that stretched from ear to ear, too wide for any human face to form. It took a slow, deliberate step toward me. Each movement felt calculated, predatory, and with every step it took, the town around me shifted. The walls seemed to lean in closer, the ground beneath me sinking deeper, the air thicker, heavier. I was trapped. There was nowhere to run. I tried to scream, but my voice didn't come out. It was like the air itself was suffocating me, pressing against my chest. The thing was coming closer, its distorted form shimmering, flickering like some unholy mirage. It stopped just in front of me, its dark eyes boring into mine, as if it were savoring the moment. The world around me began to distort, the walls stretching, the sky bending. Time itself felt like it was slowing down, folding in on itself. And then in a voice that wasn't its own but mine, it spoke. The words crawled into my mind like worms, twisting my thoughts, stealing my breath. You think you're the only one. The words hit me like a physical blow, and for the first time I understood. It wasn't just hunting me. It was part of me. It had always been part of me. This was the true horror. The thing that had been hunting me, that had been tormenting me, was not some external force. It was me. The darkness that lived within me that I had tried to suppress had manifested into something real, something far worse than I could have ever imagined. I felt my body tremble, my legs shaking as the realization hit me. I wasn't just running from the town. I wasn't just running from this thing. I was running from myself. The town trembled again, and I heard the low, deafening hum building to a crescendo, the sound vibrating through my bones. I felt myself being drawn toward it, toward the thing that mirrored me, that was me, that had always been me. And just when I thought I couldn't bear it anymore, when I thought the pressure would crush me, the thing reached out. Its hand, impossibly long, impossibly wrong, brushed my cheek, cold as death. A shockwave of fear flooded through me, and I staggered backward, slipping in the thick sludge that now covered the streets. And then the ground opened up. A deep, gaping maw in the earth, an abyss that seemed to stretch forever, swallowed the street in front of me. I watched in horror as the figure stepped forward, its foot disappearing into the darkness. It was leading me toward it, toward the abyss, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. My legs wouldn't move, my body frozen in place. "Don't worry," it whispered in that familiar voice, the one that twisted mine into something unrecognizable. "You'll find out soon enough. You'll understand." The ground shook violently as the darkness stretched toward me, its cold fingers wrapping around my ankles, pulling me in. The pressure, the weight of it, grew unbearable, crushing my chest as I was dragged toward the edge of the abyss. I tried to scream, but the sound was swallowed by the void. The darkness was alive. It wasn't just the absence of light or the emptiness of the night that swallowed me whole. It was something far deeper, something ancient, something that had been waiting. The ground beneath me continued to shift, folding in on itself, pulling me closer to that bottomless chasm. The air was thick, suffocating, every breath a struggle. Every inch I moved felt like it cost me everything. My body was frozen in place, caught in the death grip of the abyss. The thing, my doppelganger, my reflection, stood at the edge of the void, its smile widening in satisfaction, like it had just won some sick, twisted game. Its eyes gleamed, black as night, as if it could see into the deepest parts of my soul. The fear in my chest was paralyzing, but the more I struggled, the more it grinned. "You still don't get it, do you?" It whispered, its voice a low, mocking echo of my own. "You're not escaping this. You were never meant to." I tried to scream, but no sound came. The words hit me like a slap, the truth crashing down on me like the weight of the world. The pressure was unbearable. My knees buckled, and I fell to the ground, the air thick with dread. There was no way out, no way to escape the crushing inevitability of what was happening. My mind raced. There had to be something I could do to break free. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized the truth. This wasn't just about escaping the town. It wasn't even about escaping the thing that hunted me. It was about escaping myself. Escaping the part of me that had always been there, buried deep down, waiting to be set free. The doppelganger stepped closer, its form flickering like a broken image on a screen, a terrible reflection of my own self. Its eyes were empty, yet full of everything I had tried to forget. Every mistake, every regret, every moment of weakness. It knew me in ways I couldn't even begin to understand, and that was the most terrifying part. "You are me," it whispered. "You always have been." The ground beneath me trembled again, the rumbling growing louder, as if the entire town was alive, reacting to the truth that had been revealed. The walls of the abyss seemed to close in, the blackness stretching farther, deeper, pulling me toward it. "You can't run from yourself," it continued. "You can't outrun the truth." I felt the weight of its words. It wasn't just the fear of dying that paralyzed me. It was the knowledge that everything I had tried to escape, everything I had buried deep inside, was coming to the surface. And no matter how far I ran, no matter how hard I tried to break free, I would never escape it. The ground beneath me cracked open, and for a moment I thought I was falling, but then it stopped. I was suspended in the void, floating, caught between the world I knew and the darkness that awaited. The walls of the abyss seemed to pulse with life, breathing with every beat of my heart. The pressure around me was unbearable, crushing me from all sides. And then in the distance I saw it. A figure standing in the shadows. It was a woman, but her form was indistinct, as if she were made of the very darkness that surrounded us. Her eyes gleamed with an unnatural light, a soft glow in the otherwise suffocating blackness. "Who are you?" I gasped, struggling to push through the crushing weight of the void. The figure didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped forward, her movements fluid, almost hypnotic. As she got closer, I felt a strange sense of familiarity, but I couldn't place it. Her face was covered in shadow, but there was something in the way she moved, something familiar, something that tugged at my memory. "You know me," she whispered, her voice a soft, melodic hum that seemed to vibrate through the air. "I am what you've forgotten." The words sent a chill through me, deeper than any cold I had ever known. What had I forgotten? Who was she? Suddenly, memories began to flood my mind, memories I had long since buried, pushed down into the darkest corners of my soul. I saw flashes of a life I didn't remember, a family, a home, a love lost, the face of a woman, her face, a little girl, a life I had once known but had long since abandoned. "Your past has been erased," she said, as if reading my thoughts, "but you cannot escape it, not anymore." I felt the weight of the truth settle over me, heavy and suffocating. This was it, the moment I had been running from, the truth that had been hidden from me all this time. The figure stepped closer, her eyes now glowing with an eerie light. "You will face it, Alex. You cannot hide from what you are, from what you were. The truth will consume you, but it will also set you free." And in that moment I understood. The thing that had been hunting me, the darkness that had consumed me, wasn't just a reflection of my fear. It was a reflection of my guilt, my shame, the life I had abandoned. And the only way to break free was to face it. I looked down at the chasm below me, the endless darkness that threatened to swallow me whole. And then, for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt something inside me stir, something stronger than fear, a sense of clarity, of purpose. I wasn't going to let it end like this. With one last breath, I stepped forward into the darkness, ready to face the truth no matter what it took. The abyss swallowed me whole. No more air, no more ground. Just the dark, infinite void that surrounded me on all sides, suffocating and cold. The silence was deafening, like the entire world had been wiped away, leaving only this endless chasm in its place. It was so dark, so deep, I couldn't see my own hands in front of my face. But then a light pierced through the darkness. It wasn't bright at first, just a faint, flickering glow that grew stronger with every heartbeat. It was small at first, but soon it filled the space around me, casting long shadows and revealing the edges of the abyss I was trapped in. The light flickered like the flame of a candle, unstable, flickering with each breath I took. I took a step forward, my body trembling as I tried to find solid ground beneath me, but there was nothing. I was still floating, suspended in this place between worlds, unable to move or escape. The light moved, shifting in front of me, drawing me toward it. I have to get to it. As I focused on the light, something in the distance caught my attention. A figure, the same figure I had seen before, standing in the shadows. It was her. The woman from my memories, the one I had forgotten, the one I had been running from all this time. "Who are you?" I shouted, but the words didn't come out right. They felt wrong, as if the abyss had swallowed my voice and twisted it into something unrecognizable. The woman didn't speak, but she reached out, her hand stretching toward me. Her eyes, glowing with that same eerie light, locked onto mine, and for a moment I saw everything: my past, my mistakes, my regrets. I saw the life I had once lived, the family I had once loved, the decisions that had led me here, trapped in this endless cycle of darkness. And then she spoke, her voice a soft whisper, barely audible over the deafening silence. "It's time, Alex." "Time for what?" Before I could ask, the world around me shifted again. The ground began to form beneath my feet, solid and real. I was no longer floating in the void. I was standing on something now, something familiar. A street. A familiar street, but something was wrong. The buildings around me were distorted, twisted, like they were being pulled apart by some invisible force. I looked around, confusion flooding my mind. It was the town that had been haunting me, but it was different now. It was alive, breathing, shifting with each passing second. The sky above was no longer just black, but swirling with dark clouds, like the storm was waiting to descend. I turned back to the woman, who was now standing in front of me, her gaze locked onto mine. She was no longer just a shadow in the dark. She was real, tangible, and she was here to finish what I had started. "You know what you must do," she said, her voice now clear and commanding. "The truth is right in front of you, Alex. The darkness you've been running from is not an enemy. It's a part of you. You cannot outrun it any longer. You must face it, or you will never escape." "I don't want to face it." The words felt like a lie. I had been running from my own darkness, from the fear that had consumed me, from the guilt that had tormented me. I had been avoiding the truth for so long, convincing myself that if I could just keep running, I could escape it. But deep down, I knew the truth. The thing that had been hunting me wasn't just some twisted reflection of myself. It was my own fear, my own guilt, my own darkness. It was me. The woman stepped forward, her presence commanding, yet strangely comforting. She was showing me something I had been too afraid to see, and then I understood. I didn't have to fight it. I didn't have to run. I needed to accept it. The darkness, the fear, the pain, they were a part of me. And the only way to truly escape this nightmare was to embrace it. With a deep breath, I stepped forward. The woman smiled softly, her eyes filled with understanding, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I wasn't afraid. The ground trembled beneath me, and the town around me began to shift once more, but this time it felt different. The distortion faded, replaced with something real, something I could hold onto. The buildings around me stood tall, their windows clear, their doors wide open. I stepped forward and the darkness began to recede. The town wasn't empty anymore. People appeared on the streets, familiar faces, faces I had forgotten. The streets were full of life again, the sound of footsteps and laughter filling the air. I wasn't alone. I never had been. And just when I thought I was free, when I thought the nightmare was over, I heard it again. The familiar sound of footsteps behind me. But this time I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I had finally come to terms with what I had been running from. The footsteps grew louder, closer, but instead of fear, I felt a strange sense of calm. The doppelganger was still there, but it wasn't hunting me anymore. It was just me. Alex Moore's journey through the abandoned town was never just about physical survival. It was about confronting his own darkest fears and deepest regrets. From the moment he woke up in the sterile, lifeless hospital room, Alex was thrust into a nightmarish cycle where every escape attempt seemed to lead to an even darker reality. The town, with its hollow streets and abandoned buildings, became the perfect metaphor for the emptiness he felt inside. At first, Alex thought that the true horror lay in the desolation of the place, the strange presence that seemed to follow him, and the overwhelming sense of being hunted. But as his journey unfolded, it became clear that the real enemy was not the town or the relentless entity that mirrored his every move. It was himself. In the beginning, Alex found himself trapped in a world that didn't make sense. He was alone, unsure of his surroundings, and tormented by the eerie, oppressive silence. The hospital, which should have been a place of healing, became his prison. He wandered through the empty hallways, searching for answers, yet finding only more questions. His mind began to unravel as his memories became clouded, leaving him disoriented and lost. But with each new twist in the town, from the ghostly doppelganger to the shifting streets, Alex was forced to confront something deeper, something within himself. The more Alex tried to escape, the more he realized that he couldn't outrun his past. The dark figure that followed him was not just a haunting apparition. It was a reflection of his own guilt and self-loathing. His endless loop of death and rebirth in the town mirrored his internal struggle, a battle he couldn't escape until he faced it head-on. The doppelganger, initially an external threat, became a symbol of Alex's unresolved trauma. It represented the parts of himself he had tried to bury, his mistakes, his regrets, and his inability to move forward. It was only when Alex came to the realization that this dark presence was him, a twisted reflection of his own fears, that he began to understand the true nature of his torment. In the final moments of the story, Alex reached a turning point. In the face of overwhelming darkness, he realized that true freedom didn't lie in running from his fears or trying to escape them. It lay in embracing them. By accepting his past, acknowledging his flaws, and confronting his guilt head-on, Alex was finally able to break free from the cycle of despair that had trapped him. The town, which had once felt like a suffocating prison, began to transform. It became a place of healing, a place where Alex could rebuild and reconcile with himself. The journey wasn't easy. It wasn't without pain or sacrifice, but Alex's story teaches us something profoundly important about the human condition. No matter how deep the darkness, no matter how endless the struggle, we all have the power to overcome our inner demons. The key lies in facing them head-on, in accepting who we are, flaws and all, and in learning to forgive ourselves. As you reflect on this powerful lesson, I encourage you to take the first step on your own journey. Embrace the darkness and you will find the light. If Alex's story resonated with you and reminded you of the importance of self-acceptance and forgiveness, make sure to join us again for more transformative content. By subscribing to our channel, Whispers in the Dark, you're not just supporting the creation of more chilling stories. You're supporting the creation of content that dives deep into the heart of human emotion, fear, and growth. Stay with us on this journey, and let's explore these dark, yet enlightening tales together. Until next time, keep confronting your own shadows.